My wife walked out, right before the company party in a sexy dress, and told me I'm meeting someone. Don't wait up. I didn't stop her. When she came home later that night, everything had changed and she wasn't ready for what I did. The music hadn't even started yet when I saw it. The look in her eyes, that split-second hesitation when she stepped out of the bedroom and realized I was standing by the hallway mirror, watching, she froze. Not because I startled her. No, it was because she didn't expect me to notice. Her hair was perfect. Her makeup soft but surgical, like she practiced it. And that dress, a deep burgundy thing with a low back and thin straps she'd sworn she'd never wear because it felt too revealing. Suddenly it wasn't too much. "I thought you were still in the shower," she said, smoothing the sides of her dress, like she needed something to do with her hands. I didn't answer. I was too busy calculating because something was off. Way off. She didn't have her wedding ring on again, and the necklace she wore, the gold one with the tiny emerald charm, wasn't the one I gave her. It was new, expensive, subtle, masculine in its minimalism. A gift, but not for me. Still, I said nothing. She pulled her phone out of her clutch and tapped twice, her lips tightening. "I'm going to swing by the event early. Help set things up," she said. "You can meet me there later if you want. Not let's go together. Not our Ubers outside, just... I'm going first." I kept my voice level. "So you're meeting someone?" She blinked, and then, like she'd rehearsed it, she exhaled. Not nervous, not apologetic, just done, pretending. "Yes," she said. "I am." No tears, no excuses, just raw honesty, polished and delivered like a dinner reservation. And then she walked past me, heels clicking across the tile like punctuation. She didn't ask how I felt. She didn't wait to see if I'd follow. And maybe that's the worst part. She knew I wouldn't stop her. But what she didn't know, not then, was what I'd already found in her phone last week, or what I planned to do with it. And when she finally saw me again later that night, she dropped her glass. But I'll get to that. She left the house at exactly 6:42 p.m. I know, because I watched the time change on the microwave clock as the door clicked shut. I didn't follow, didn't call out. I just stood there in the dim kitchen, the ice in my untouched glass of water already melting, and the echo of her heels still bouncing around in my chest. I should have felt rage or heartbreak, or the kind of desperation that makes men lose their minds. But what I felt was worse clarity. For the first time in months, maybe even years, I saw everything for what it was. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't new. This had been building, and I had been watching it from the front row like a fool, too afraid to stand up and leave the theater. The truth is, I already knew about him. His name was Rory. Yeah, Rory sounded like someone who drinks overpriced cocktails and uses network as a verb. A guy who probably wears cologne called confidence and thinks meetings are battles he needs to dominate. She'd let his name slip once too casually 2 months ago, and since then, I'd become a student of silence, learning to observe the way her phone never left her hand, the way she started showering right after work instead of in the morning, the way she suddenly cared about how her voice sounded in voicemails. I didn't ask questions. I just started watching. A week ago, she left her phone on the bathroom counter while drying her hair. It lit up 3 times in a row, and that was my window. I didn't need to scroll. Just one notification preview was enough. "Rory still thinking about last night. That smile you gave me before the door closed. That smile. My wife's smile. The one I used to get when I brought home her favorite Thai food without asking. The one I saw the night I proposed when her hands were shaking and she couldn't stop laughing. Now it belonged to someone else." But I didn't explode. I didn't confront her. I simply took a picture of the screen with my own phone, set it down, and went back to the living room like nothing happened. Because I needed a plan. A clean one. One she wouldn't see coming. One that wouldn't make me the villain in the story she was clearly rehearsing in her head. No yelling, no throwing things, no pitiful begging, just strategy. So now, with her gone to set up early, I put my plan into motion. I walked into our shared closet, the one where she used to leave sticky notes with hearts on my side of the mirror, and pulled out the smallest suitcase we owned. Not for me, for her. I laid it open on the bed and started folding her clothes into it neatly, like I was helping a friend pack for a trip. They forgot to mention her favorite cardigan. The jeans she always said made her feel confident. Even that dumb sweatshirt from college she never wore, but refused to throw out. It all went in. Then I went to the safe. We never kept much in it. Just our passports, a flash drive of wedding photos, and the last thing I added last year, the title to the car, the one I paid off, the one she conveniently borrowed most weekends. I took the title out, walked to the drawer, removed the spare key, put both in a Ziploc bag, and dropped it in the suitcase. She wanted a clean break. I was giving her one, but that wasn't the twist. The twist was waiting in the guest bedroom inside a plain manila envelope that I'd sealed and addressed earlier that day. It was a letter, a simple one not written by me, written by him, Rory. I'd printed out his messages from her cloud backup, the ones he thought were deleted, the ones that showed without a shred of doubt that he knew she was married, that he encouraged her to keep it secret, that he called me the obstacle more than once. And guess where that envelope was going? To HR. At her job. That's right. Because when your lover is also your team supervisor, and your husband happens to know how to legally phrase inappropriate workplace relationship involving a subordinate, things can go south real fast. The moment she walked out to meet him, she stepped into a trap she didn't even know existed. And me. I wasn't just the weak husband anymore. I was the storm she never saw coming. By the time she arrived at the company event, I was already there. That's the part that'll probably haunt her the longest. The way she stepped inside, confident and glowing in that burgundy dress, thinking I was still at home, sulking, spinning my wedding ring on the kitchen counter like a sad cliché. But I wasn't home. I was standing by the bar in full view, already mid-con conversation with someone from finance. I vaguely remembered meeting at last year's ugly sweater contest. I wasn't drinking, just holding a glass, watching, and she saw me. Our eyes locked for maybe 2 seconds, but her entire body language shifted. Her smile faltered. Her stride slowed, and she blinked like her brain couldn't quite compute the fact that I was there before her. She hadn't even reached the main room before I saw Rory appear behind her, grinning like he owned the place. His hand hovered just a little too close to her back, like he wanted to touch her, but wasn't sure if the timing was right yet, like a coward measuring scandal by lighting. That's when she turned toward him. And get this, whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but judging by his smirk, she was still in control. She probably said something like, "Don't worry, he won't make a scene." And she was right. I didn't make a scene, because I had already staged one. A few minutes later, after they mingled and separated for optics, I approached Rory. Calm, casual, just another guy at a boring event trying to make polite conversation. He looked surprised to see me, but not nervous. He had the cocky body language of a man who thought he'd won something that didn't even belong to him. I introduced myself, shook his hand. He called me Buddy. That's when I leaned in, slightly smiled and said, "By the way, I left something on your desk earlier this evening. Might want to check it before Monday." His face twitched. Just a flicker, but it was there. That tick of fear when a man realizes the game isn't just over. It's been over, and he's the last one to know. I didn't wait for a response. I just walked away. No theatrics, no confrontation, just silence. I made my way to the coat check, slipped out, and waited across the street where the tinted windows of my car let me watch everything unfold without being seen. 25 minutes later, Camila stepped outside alone. She looked around nervously like she expected me to be pacing, screaming, breaking down. Instead, all she saw was the wind kicking her dress against her knees. Then Rory came out fast, talking into his phone with tight-clipped words. He looked like a man who'd just been sucker-punched in a room full of glass walls. No more smug grin, just damage control written all over his face. I smiled, not because I was proud, but because for the first time in years, I wasn't the one spinning. They were, and it was only getting started. Back at home, I'd made a few more preparations. One involved our joint checking account. The other involved an email, a very detailed one sent to both their department heads, BCC to legal. Just enough truth to spark an internal audit. No lies, no exaggerations, just evidence. She thought I'd be petty. She thought I'd throw her clothes out the window or beg her to choose me. But I chose something else entirely. I chose silence because silence, when timed right, is louder than any scream, and she was about to find out what that really felt like. She came home later than usual. Not as late as I expected, though. Still in that same dress heels in hand now, and her makeup smudged just enough to suggest the party hadn't gone how she imagined. The second the front door clicked shut, I heard her pause. The kind of pause where you know someone's deciding whether to face the mess they made or pretend it doesn't exist. I didn't speak. I just sat at the kitchen table in the same spot I'd been earlier that week, when she told me she was meeting someone else. There was a folded sheet of paper in front of me. Nothing dramatic. No pages of accusations, just one single typed paragraph. When she walked in and saw me, she flinched like she was expecting a lecture or a confrontation, but instead, she got silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. "I didn't think you'd come to the party," she said, trying to control her voice. She pulled out the chair across from me but didn't sit. Just hovered there, unsure of whether she even had the right to share this space with me anymore. "I know," I said. "That's all I guess you figured things out." I raised an eyebrow. "Figured out what? That you chose a co-worker with a fake Rolex and a fragile ego over a husband who sacrificed years for you." "Yeah, I pieced that together." She winced. "But I didn't stop there. You didn't expect me to do anything, Camilla. You thought I'd cry or disappear into myself like I always do. You thought you'd break the truth to me like it was charity, and I'd just wait for you to be done playing house with someone else." She tried to interrupt, but I didn't give her the chance. "Rory scrambling," I said, nodding toward her back. "I'm guessing he got a call from HR, or maybe a text from someone higher up asking about his relationship with a subordinate. Wonder how he explained that one." Her face drained of color. "You didn't. I did," I said quietly, with timestamps, message logs, calendar, overlaps, and a handful of very polite emails. All clean, all precise, no exaggerations, just the truth which, ironically, you were never willing to give me. She finally sat down, the bravado melting off her shoulders like wax. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of the life she had just set on fire with both hands. "You could have ruined me," she whispered. "You wanted to ruin me." I leaned forward, my voice low. "No, Camila. I wanted you to face what you did. Not just to me, but to yourself. You didn't fall in love with Rory. You fell in love with the idea that someone new could reset your story. But people like him, they don't offer new chapters, just distractions." She started crying then. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't beg for sympathy, just tries to breathe through shame. I let her sit there for a while. Let her feel the consequences. Then I pushed the paper across the table. She looked at it. A single sentence stared back at her. "I'm moving out next week. I'll be filing soon. You'll hear from my attorney." She didn't touch it. She just stared at it like it was a blade pressed against her comfort. "I don't want to lose you," she mumbled. "You already did." And I got up, walked past her, and closed the bedroom door behind me. No drama, no yelling, just the finality. She thought I'd never have the strength to deliver, but the fallout, oh, that still hadn't hit her yet. I woke up before sunrise. Not because I set an alarm, but because my body had fully recalibrated, like it finally realized it didn't owe her anything anymore. Not even the comfort of sleep beside her. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't even make coffee. I just left. By 7 a.m., I had already started the next phase. I drove to a quiet little storage facility on the edge of town. I'd rented a unit the day before under a new address I hadn't even told my own brother about. Inside my trunk was the suitcase I packed for her, and a second one mine. That one held only what I cared to keep. My camera gear, a few notebooks, and the shoebox of photos I hadn't been able to throw away just yet. Not because I missed her, but because those memories belonged to a version of us that had already died quietly years ago, long before Rory ever texted her. I unloaded everything quickly, efficiently, like someone erasing evidence, and then I turned my phone back on. That's when the messages started flooding in from her sister, from Rory's number, which I never saved, but recognized instantly from the screenshots I collected. At first, I wasn't going to read them, but something told me this wasn't going to be another sad attempt at manipulation. No, this was collapse in real time. The first message from Camilla was short. "You need to call me, please. It's important." The next one was longer, rambling panic spilling through the screen. "I don't know what you did, but Rory got pulled into a meeting this morning with HR. He didn't say much, but something happened. Please tell me it wasn't you. Please don't make this worse than it already is." I didn't respond. I didn't need to, because an hour later I got another message. This one was different, slower, almost broken. "Rory just told me he's stepping down. He said the board is reviewing everything. He's blaming me. He said he won't burn alone. What did you do, Lel?" And that was the moment I finally allowed myself a tiny, bitter smile, because it wasn't what I did, it was what they did, and I simply let the truth report itself. All I did was show the cracks in the glass. They were the ones who leaned on it like it could still hold. But the biggest shock wasn't from her. It was from an unknown number that texted me a few minutes later. "Hey, I know this is out of nowhere, but I used to work with your wife. I saw what happened this morning. I think you should know this wasn't her first time." My blood went cold. I stared at that message for a full minute before responding. Just one word: explain. And what she told me next, it changed everything. Even the anger, even the carefully calculated revenge. Because suddenly, this wasn't just about Rory, or a dress, or a lie whispered before a party. It was about years of betrayal, hiding behind a single smile, and how I had been played far longer than I realized. I sat in my car for almost 20 minutes, staring at my phone. That one message, "this wasn't her first time," had undone me more than anything Camilla had said herself. It was like someone had suddenly opened a trap door beneath everything I believed, and now I was free, falling through memories I had once trusted. The woman who sent it used to work in Camilla's department years ago. Her name was Darla, and I vaguely remembered her from some corporate holiday event. The kind where spouses get name tags and feel like outsiders. She didn't owe me anything, but apparently what happened at the office that morning had stirred something. Guilt, maybe, or the need to expose what she'd kept silent about for too long. She told me it started 4 years ago. A different project, a different boss, same pattern. Long meetings that ran late, business trips that didn't quite line up with the calendar. Camilla had been involved with another colleague, someone married with 2 kids. That affair had ended when the man's wife found out and nearly burned his life to the ground. HR got wind of it, but it never became official. He was quietly transferred. Camilla somehow stayed put. I had no idea. Back then I was working 60-hour weeks trying to land a contract that would pay off our second mortgage. She had told me she was emotionally burned out. I remember buying her that weekend retreat package at the lake house thinking it would help. God, I actually believe that was a good memory. As I pieced it all together in my head, something in me changed. I wasn't just hurt anymore. I was humiliated. I'd been the man who held the umbrella while she danced in someone else's storm. Again and again I texted Darla back. I asked if she had any proof. I didn't expect a yes, but 2 minutes later, She sent a forwarded email from Camila, dated 3.5 years ago. A joke, a line about being better at mixing business and pleasure than most, and attached a photo from a company retreat. Camila on a balcony holding a glass of wine, sitting far too close to a man who wasn't me. I zoomed in. Her hand was on his knee, the same way she used to do to me in restaurants when she wanted me to know she was mine. It felt like the floor gave out. Back home. No, not home anymore. I sat in the apartment I'd rented under a different name and just stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I wanted to. I wanted to scream, to rip the picture of our wedding day I still had in my bag. But all I could feel was exhaustion. Not the physical kind. The kind that lives in your bones. The kind that makes you feel like you've aged a decade in a day. Then Camila called again. 6 missed calls. A new voicemail. I didn't listen. Instead, I started typing, not a message to her. No, I was writing my story. Every detail, every mistake, every moment I ignored the signs and convinced myself I was being paranoid. I wasn't writing it to shame her. I wasn't even writing it for closure. I was writing it because if I didn't get it out, I was going to drown in it. But here's where it gets strange. The next morning I woke up to a knock at my door. I thought maybe it was a delivery, maybe my brother checking on me. But no, it was her and what she said when I opened the door. I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. The lease was in a different name, the utilities under a prepaid account, and I paid cash for everything. Camila shouldn't have been able to find me, but somehow, there she was standing outside my door, like the past week hadn't just happened. Hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup, wearing the hoodie I bought her for that road trip she claimed was life-changing. I stared at her through the peephole for a long minute before I even opened the door. When I finally did, I didn't say anything. Neither did she. She just looked at me with these wide, glassy eyes, like she was trying to decide if I was real or just another thing she dreamed up to avoid feeling alone. I figured you'd be here, she said softly. Like that made it okay. Like that explained the 6 days of silence, the destroyed job, the exposed affair, and the way she turned our life into a battlefield without ever lifting her voice. You have about 30 seconds, I replied, stepping aside only enough to make it clear she wasn't coming in. She didn't ask to. Instead, she clutched a folder to her chest like it was armor. He's saying I coerced him, she whispered. Rory, he's telling everyone I pressured him into the relationship, that I made threats. I blinked slowly and it's not true, she said, her voice cracking. LOL. Please, you know that's not who I am. The laugh that came out of me wasn't even bitter. It was hollow, detached. I didn't even recognize it. I know who you were with someone else, I said. Multiple someone else's, apparently. And I know you're not here because you regret what you did. You're here because the fallout finally caught up. Her lip quivered, and I swear if this had happened a month ago, I would have folded. I would have hugged her. I would have told her we'd figure it out. But something inside me had changed. I wasn't hers anymore. Not emotionally, not legally, not in spirit. She opened the folder slowly and pulled out a sheet of paper. It's a formal complaint from his attorney. She said he's trying to bury me. HR won't even look me in the eye now. I'm on unpaid leave. My name's being dragged through internal channels. This could ruin everything. I crossed my arms. And you think coming here will fix that? I thought you'd want the truth. I thought maybe if you told them it was mutual, that you knew it might help. It was so wild, so self-centered that I actually took a step back to process it. You want me to lie for you, I said, after everything you did, after the people you humiliated, the marriage you burned down, the man you betrayed. Now you want me to save your reputation. Her face collapsed in on itself. And finally I saw it. Not regret, not sorrow, panic, because she wasn't used to not having control. She wasn't used to me having the last word. I made mistakes, she said almost inaudibly. But I never thought you'd do this to me. I shook my head. I didn't do anything to you, Camila. You did it all yourself. I just opened the window and let the smoke out. And then I did the one thing she never expected. I closed the door. Not in anger, not in revenge, just in peace. Because for the first time in our entire relationship, I wasn't chasing, I wasn't begging, and I wasn't giving her the power to spin the story. I left her on the other side of the door, cold, exposed, and finally forced to look at what she'd become without the illusion of love to soften it. But I wasn't done yet. 3 weeks passed. No calls, no knocks, no more desperate voicemails from Camila. The silence she once weaponized had finally turned on her. And I wasn't hiding anymore. I wasn't waiting for closure or plotting the next move. I was just living quietly, honestly. For the first time in years, I'd started freelancing again. Photography, mostly the kind I used to love before life became spreadsheets and mortgage reminders. I moved into a small loft above a used bookstore, the kind of place that smelled like old paper and second chances. I was alone, but it wasn't lonely. It was clean. Mine. Then one morning, while editing photos at a little cafe down the street, my phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. Hey, Lel. You probably don't remember me, but I met you at that awful corporate dinner 2 years ago. I was Rory's wife now, ex-wife. I just wanted to say thank you. I froze. Her name was Lydia. I remembered her vaguely. Elegant, soft-spoken, the kind of woman who had clearly spent too long shrinking herself next to a man who needed all the air in the room. We'd only exchanged a few words that night, probably something awkward over the shrimp cocktail. Her message continued. I found out everything after the investigation started. You being brave enough to speak up made the rest of the truth finally come out. I've left him. I got the house. I got peace. I don't know what Camila told you, but I hope you know you did the right thing. If you're ever in Carson Ridge, I'd love to buy you a coffee, just to thank you face to face. I didn't respond right away, not because I didn't want to, but because something about her words made me sit back and breathe. Not out of pain, not from grief. Relief. All the chaos, all the humiliation, all the nights I stared at my ceiling, wondering how I didn't see the cracks forming, it led to something. It led to truth. Not just for me, but for someone else who'd been lied to, too. I wrote back later that evening. Hey Lydia, I remember you. I'm glad you got out too. Maybe coffee wouldn't be the worst idea. She replied with a smile emoji. That's how it ended. Not with a scream, not with a ring thrown across the floor, or an angry confrontation on a doorstep, but with two people strangers, really, who'd both survived being collateral damage. Quietly finding their way back to something that felt like hope. Camila. I heard she resigned. Last I checked, she moved out of the city. I don't care where she went. That part of the story is done. And me, I'm starting over. And this time I'm not looking.